Hello and welcome to Gravitas Wins Conversations. I guess you are listening to this podcast on a mobile phone. Whatever your phone it is much more powerful than the computer that launched man to the moon. Edge computing is one of many technologies that is trying to ride on such a power that is available on mobile phones and at the computers that are available at the edge. To explore this topic further, I invited my good friend Manish, who has been experimenting on edge computing. Hope you will enjoy this conversation. Hello, Manish. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Joseph. Thanks for having me.
Let's start from the beginning, Manish. What is edge computing and how did you get into it?
Let me have the opportunity to explain edge computing to the audience by virtue of a small story. Think of a self driving truck which is loaded with concrete driving on a highway at 100 kilometers per hour. Now, all the decisions that the truck has to make are determined by software, whether to accelerate, whether to stop, whether there is a red light at the traffic, or whether there is a yellow light or a green light. Now, when this truck is driving on its own, determined by a computer system, think of it that there is a small child that comes in front of the truck. Now, the system
Hmm.
on the truck has to make a real time decision whether to accelerate or brake because it could be a
Hmm.
child or it could be just a plastic bag flowing in the air. Now, because of the speed at which the truck moving, the decision needs to be very, very fast. In the normal situation, the sensors that a truck has could be a camera, could be a radar. They will capture a lot of data, and then this data will go to a server. And the server will decide, okay, this is not a child, this could be a child, accelerate or brake, or there's nothing yet. It's just a flaw in the camera, and keep on driving the way you are driving. And this decision will be made on the server, and the response will come back to the truck. And based on it, the truck will put on the brakes or continue driving the way it is. Now, because of the critical nature of the application and the speed, and that there is a human life involved, the truck needs to make this decision in the minimum time possible. With all the current
Hmm.
technology, because the server is situated far off in a data center, it might take a couple of seconds for the response to get back to the truck. What we want in this situation is to reduce the response time as fast as to be as minimum as possible. What edge computing does is it physically reduces the distance between the point of data generation and the point where the data is computed. In the
Hmm.
edge computing ecosystem, what we will do is we will put a small server on each cell phone tower so that the truck only needs to send the data from its sensor to the nearest cell phone tower, and then the server can compute and send in the response back. That way, the
Hmm.
response time is reduced to a couple of milliseconds from a couple of hundred milliseconds, the way it would be in the normal situation. That way, the truck will be able to decide in time that it is an actual child, put on the brakes, and avoid a collision. This is fundamentally what edge computing does. It reduces the physical distance and thus the latency or the response time from the point of origin of the data and the point where the data is computed.
What are the other benefits that business and especially for the technologist, what benefits it offers?
Sure. Edge computing is a gradual evolution. For example, over the last 20 years, internet has gone mainstream. Every business is an internet
Hmm.
driven business, whether you are a bank, whether you are a grocery store, whether you're running a hospital, whether you are a teacher, especially these days with COVID. Uh, Similarly, edge computing is the gradual evolution of the internet paradigm. Every business will be touched by this technology because we are able to
Hmm.
make decisions in real time. For example, if you are an architect and you are designing a building, or not these days, but if you have a large office building with people coming in and coming out, with edge computing, you are able to make near real time decisions with all the sensors that are there to track the temperature, whether there is a viral load, or whether there is too much moisture, or the sunlight is too high, then let's dim the internal lights. All these decisions can be made real time. That is one application of it.
Hmm.
Even if you're working in finance, for example, somebody tries to skim somebody's money via an ATM machine. In the current situation, the fraud will be detected a couple of minutes later because all the data will hit the central server, and then there will be an alert, and then they might block your card, or then maybe you they don't even block your card and you have to call the bank and then try to run around to get your money back. With edge computing, because the decisions can be made in near real time, then we can have biometric authentication. Your identity can be verified. There could be a real time alert right at the moment when somebody tries to commit a fraud at the ATM. especially in
Mm.
healthcare. For example, rather than the blood sample being transported to a centralized laboratory, the software can travel to all these points of presence. So your blood sample doesn't have to travel too much of a distance. They can go and take it to the nearest center, and they just put the blood sample into the machine, and all the computation is done right then and there. And the latest software is always updated on that machine. So this is
Mm.
something that will touch everybody's life. I really like this story. When electricity was getting mainstream in about 100 years ago, initially electricity was only used for lighting. So the only electrical connection that you will have
Mm.
in your home is going to be for a light bulb. And then what people did is they came up with a lot of adapters. So somebody will try to put a toaster, and they will have a contraption that will connect the toaster to the electric light bulb holder, and then they'll turn the toaster on, or a washing machine. But now electricity is a utility, and it's called a utility company for some particular reason, because the only thing you need is the electric supply, and you can connect anything to electricity. So I think that happened with the internet, and with the new paradigm, with all these smart devices, all these sensors, so much of data being generated. This data needs to be processed in real time to give a more human touch to technology. So I think edge computing enables it, and there will not be any industry that will not be touched by it.
Wow. Okay. So does that mean, purely from a technology perspective and as a developer software perspective, will edge computing replace cloud computing then?
Well, that's a good question. And what I personally believe is edge is the evolution of the cloud. So the cloud will still remain the way it is. Edge is only the next generation of cloud. So uh, within the edge computing paradigm, from a technology perspective, there are concepts like far edge, near edge, or the central cloud. Uh,
Hmm.
you will always need the cloud the way it is right now, because you also need to store data somewhere. The data needs to be backed up. You need a lot of reporting. So the cloud will always be there. Edge is a gradual extension of it. For example, let's say you are in Ladakh
Hmm.
and you want to monitor weather, and you want to make weather alerts. So that would
Hmm.
be a far edge use case, because you cannot have transportation, especially in the winter months. The highways shut down for months, and it's difficult to physically go there via road transport. So we can have a far edge solution there deployed, where all the systems can keep on running on their own. The sensors can function, they can monitor humidity, avalanches, stuff like that. And they can always report back data slowly to the main cloud. So the data is always there in the central cloud, but the actual decision making can happen independent of the central cloud. So even if the mobile internet is not good enough, or let's say the fiber optic cable is chopped off, the system will continue to work, because internet driven systems are very, very critical. Imagine the internet goes down for one day. It will be almost like an apocalypse. But with far edge use cases like this, we can have the extreme last mile system continue to function normally without having a real time dependency on the central server or the central system. But you always need, it's always a good thing to back up the data or synchronize everything, so that somebody sitting down in Bangalore can always have access to that information as and when they want. So edge will be a gradual evolution rather than a total snap off event where the cloud is no longer there and everything is edge. So it's more of a complementing thing. Things evolve in technology. So I see it that way.
Okay. While you were explaining that particular use case, I can see that there are quite a lot of associated technologies that need to evolve, or they are shaping this edge computing.
Yes,
uh, it is the cloud that you talked about, data that is going to be generated. And probably today we are not collecting that much data, but then when edge computing is going to come in, there's going to be a huge number of data that's going to come in, and then all of the data will have to be transferred back to the cloud. So that's a transmission that is involved. What are the associated technologies that are shaping edge computing?
sure. The biggest driver for edge is smart devices or the sensor
Hmm.
technology. Now, everything is going to be smart. For example, the thermostat in your home. It is connected to
Hmm.
the internet, and the common cliche term is called the Internet of Things, but it is really exciting stuff. Your thermostat can automatically talk to your junction box from where
Hmm.
the public utility sends in the electric wire. You don't have to turn off the thermostat automatically on or off. It can auto adjust and reduce the load. That is one area where it comes, and especially in manufacturing or factories. For example, you have a municipal water treatment plant, so somebody does not have to manually go and take the reading if the water is drinkable. Is the water clean enough? Is there enough chlorine, or is there too much chlorine? And currently, because it's a human factor which is involved, they can do it a finite number of times. But if I put a good quality
Mm.
sensor there, then you can monitor it in real time. It will be more accurate, the reporting will be much more faster, and you can take corrective actions. Or let's say, especially in the region in which you and I live, we oftentimes hear that the water supply will be at low pressure because the pipe
Mm.
burst or something gotten wrong. So currently, what happens is somebody visually sees it. Oh, there is something has gone wrong, and then they escalate it and fix it. But if we have a smart motor with some sensors, then in real time you can determine and you can predict that, okay, these many hours from now this motor is not behaving right, it is not pumping up enough water, or there
Mm.
is some anomaly, and we know that couple of hours from now it might malfunction. So you can proactively have an alert and send the engineer down at the pumping station and fix it. So I think sensors technology, it's amazing, it will touch everything and it will be the main driver. So rather than today, when as a human being I log into the computer, I log in into a website and I am generating the data, everything around you will generate a lot of data, and that data will be processed in real time via edge computing and then coordinated with the central cloud via backend. For example, pollution, especially during a particular period of year, we have when the weather changes, there's a lot of smog, there is
Yeah.
the visibility is not clear, the air gets toxic. So currently it is physically not possible to measure air quality with much accuracy because there are not a lot of sampling points. But imagine what edge computing allows you to do. It every street light can have a small air quality sensor, so you can get a much clearer picture where actually the problem is. What are the patterns like? Is it really smog, or is it just normal dust, or maybe is the air quality poor or off at a near a factory or a construction site, and is it much more cleaner near a forest area? So when you get this
Mm.
quality data and this data is measured accurately, it allows you to make much more informed decisions. So with smart devices, we have high speed mobile internet, we already have 4G. With 5G coming in, you can really, there's no limit to how much data can be captured.
Mm.
And the more data you capture, the more things you're able to measure, the more informed decision you can make, and that helps in improving the quality of human life.
Wow, fantastic. Uh, Having interacted with you earlier outside of this podcast that we are recording, you have talked a lot about the play that government of India is playing in this edge computing and in promoting this. Can you tell me few things that government of India is doing in this
Sure.
particular area?
Sure. So before coming to specifically to the edge, I'll just take one step back so that I am able to present a better
Mm.
context. So India is the second largest internet market in the world and one of the cheapest internet connectivity rates. So personally, I see we're sitting at the top of a very big internet opportunity, and there's a lot of value that can be created for our people, our fellow citizens. And looking at the last couple of decades, for example, UPI, it's an amazing technology, really state of the art,
Yeah.
the most advanced technology, I guess, anywhere that exists in the world. It's mind blowing. I can send money to you, click of a button, and it's real time. And
Mm.
imagine sometimes it might take 30 minutes with NEFT, or I might have to physically travel to a bank, deposit the money, get a receipt, then call you on phone, send you a picture, or mail you the receipt, and the money will hit your account uh, in some time. But it's near real time. Imagine if the same thing happens to everything that is around you with sensors. You can monitor your traffic efficiently. You can have green corridors for ambulances. For example, from Mohali to Chandigarh, if I have to take an ambulance at rush hour, maybe 9 a.m. or maybe 5:30 p.m. when the office is closed down, with smart sensors, smart drivers, smart cities, you don't need a traffic policeman to coordinate or somebody to call the police. The system is robust enough. The ambulance is already tagged. The ambulance is broadcasting. The ambulance driver can turn the siren on, so the system will detect that, hey, this is this ambulance at this particular junction box, and from here to, let's say, PGI Chandigarh or 32 Medical College or the Sector 16 hospital, it will be a green corridor. The ambulance doesn't have to stop anywhere.
Hmm.
And it's not like
Hmm.
that they have to have a green corridor for 40 minutes. They just need to turn that particular green light which is nearest to the ambulance, so the rest of the traffic can continue functioning the way it is, so the people are also able to commute wherever they want, but the ambulance is not actually stopping, and all of this decision is being made in real time. In India, the
Hmm.
government investing heavily. We have the smart cities program, and a lot of money is being invested where you have such technologies, centralized monitoring systems, where sanitation quality can be monitored, traffic can be monitored smartly. Even there is a project where electricity meters are going to be digital, and which is beneficial for the both consumer and the company, so the consumer can always have a prepaid system, and so that they are not, because right now it's a surprise at the end of the month if you get overbilled or what your electricity bill is. But now it's all real time monitoring. We know how much load actually there is, and that way the government can plan things in better. We know that at in the month of May at 9 or 9:30 a.m. when people turn into offices. Hopefully, COVID will be gone by then, and we'll all return to the way things were in the BC era or the before COVID era. And there are these real-time sensors, and there are smart electric meters, so they know how much electricity being consumed, and they report it to the central system, and the system learns on its own. So they know in real time on a per building level that this is the amount of electricity that will be consumed, so they can do capacity planning that way. So all of this is in the
Hmm.
pipes, and it is being executed right now in India. So we're really at the forefront of this technology. The government is aware of the potential, and there are a lot of programs that are being involved, and especially the incubation program with which my company is incubated with, Software Technology Parks of India. They have a dedicated center of excellence for IoT, so which is amazing,
Hmm.
and they have a lab there. You can work, and especially the Mohali center. It's the Neuron. It's a center of excellence, a national level center of excellence for IoT devices. So the people are aware of the potential, and they want the people of India to benefit, and a lot of an initiative is being done. You would be surprised to know that India has its own cloud called Meghdoot.
Yeah.
It's currently used for government businesses, but I hope they open it up for the public, so everybody has access to low cost computing with smart devices. So that really benefits, and not only in cities, especially in our villages. For example,
Hmm.
in the case of something that I'm really passionate about is quality access to healthcare. So we have PGI Chandigarh, some an institution that I have a lot of respect in my heart. So currently, people from, let's say, a person from a village will actually physically travel to PGI, and it's really tough for a small consultation. The actual interaction with the specialized doctor might be of a couple of minutes, but there is a lot of ad hoc time. You have to travel in the bus, come here in the evening for a consultation in the morning, and that's not the patient, but there are people with him. So with him or her,
Hmm.
a lot of productivity is being lost. One thing I'm really passionate about is, maybe can, with via edge computing, can we have dedicated video conferencing corridors with all primary health centers connected via a private grid? So normally at times we see that the Zoom is not working fine, or Google Meet is very slow, or the WhatsApp video call is not very efficient because it's all the same network. But once we have this distributed edge networks, then you can have an HD video connection. It's all local. It's all between, let's say, some village in Amritsar to PGI Chandigarh. We can really
Hmm.
reduce the consultation time. It's a direct interaction with the specialist, and the specialist can cater to more people in a single day. We can have a smart ECG machine or a smart X-ray machine. You go to the nearest lab, and the data is fed back to the specialist via the dedicated edge system, and the system can automatically detect that, okay, your bone is broken, or you have cataract in your eye, things like that. So all of this is being worked on right now in this country. So I think that psychs me up, that keeps me awake at nights.
I can see that, Manish. Uh, One of the things that I have learned, having worked in government of India for a while, is we don't give enough credit to our government. Whatever
Yes.
be the political parties,
Yes.
we don't give enough credit to our government. There are a ton of stuff that are happening, and I'm glad to know, even in the technology space, that we are the pioneers
Oh,
in this particular thing.
absolutely, absolutely. I've met some really good officers, well-meaning people who understand their job really, really well, and they really want to encourage you. So, for example, when I might be interacting with somebody in the government and they know that this person has some specialization and they have their own expertise, they really give you the access. They really want to listen to you, and they want the most vulnerable members of our society. They're also, I personally believe, they have the same rights. So everybody should have the right to live with dignity, and technology allows you to do that. For example, for you and me, we work in the like without internet, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of career would I have been having. So we need to
Yeah,
ensure that this expands. Everybody can benefit from it, irrespective of where they are from, what's their economic situation like. The term that I personally like using is that technology is an equal opportunity enabler. It
yeah.
rises the tide equally for everyone. And especially in the tier two, tier three cities, I see a lot of innovation coming in the decades to come. So we are a young country, we are an aspirational country, and yeah, there's no limit.
So then, while we are talking about this, what are the experiments that you have been running on edge computing?
Sure. This is I'm really excited to talk about. So we run an international coalition called as the Open Computing Alliance, where we are partnering with some of the companies who are building the platforms that power the edge computing solutions, and we try to set up something in India. So in India, we have a project called as the Bharat Compute Grid, where we are setting up these computing units at various locations within India. Of course, not as diverse as a cell phone tower grid because it's more for an research perspective, and we're a small startup. So I have got two physical servers running here in the Mohali data center as part of the nearest node. So we are running experiments on a low latency telemetry system. You can monitor if the system can be anything. It could be a software, it could be a physical device, and we it just pings it and collects data to see if the system is on or not.
Mm.
In addition to it, we're running experiments in agriculture, remote sensing. For example, let's say, especially it's more relevant in Punjab, where you have, let's say, green pastures. So how can the soil nutrient quality can be monitored in real time? So right now, what happens is, when the fertilizer is required, it is spread liberally across all the tract of land. That is one area that we are working in. How can we monitor that? And in fact, one of the experiments that I completed yesterday is how can we make it self-sustaining. So what we did is we got some small, a very very micro 35-watt server. We connected it to a solar panel. I have it in front of me. Like right now, it's dark outside, and it works 24/7 automatically, no dependency
Mm.
on the grid, especially for rural India. So we are not creating any load on the main power grid. So electricity can come and go, which I believe with time it will improve, but the system is self-sustaining. It has a small 4G connectivity module. It's connected to the high-speed internet, and the data does not need to travel to the central server all the time. You can compute it, you can process it locally, make all the local decisions, and later on you can sync all the data to the central server for reporting and for analysis, or for the analyst to find anomalies in. So these are exciting technologies. And in terms of platforms, my a company that I really love is called Optden, and their technology is open source. They're Apache guys. So they have their platform called Subutai. That is something we are experimenting with, and because it's open source, we're trying to create a customized version of it, which is specific to India for Indian use cases. So it's really exciting.
Great, great. As always, Manish, talking to you is always illuminating, and a part magic, part science fiction, and part also inspiring. That
Oh, thank
what we
you.
are doing for India,
Mhm.
and especially using open source
Yes.
and on riding on the latest technologies. So it's always fun talking to you, Manish.
Oh yes,
Uh,
and yeah, it's always exciting for me as well. I mean, the internet, it's amazing. Sometimes I wonder, 500 years ago, the kings inheritors will be kings, the farmers inheritors will be farmers, or if you are, if you are just a peasant, your children will be peasants. But technology, it there are no barriers. You can be anything you want. It is open for everybody, and it's really amazing. And uh, the kind of wealth I personally believe, not to sound very cliched, but the again what I discussed with some of my mentors is that India's salvation lies in large scale wealth creation. So you and I are blessed enough to sit, you know, I think I was born in the right place at the right time. I'll be very honest. A lot of it was governed by the accident of birth. So I think, we can consciously take this. Uh, what's the right term I'm looking for? We can enable the same prosperity for others as well, and technology is the fastest way of doing it. I think it should be our life's mission. It is
Yeah.
our responsibility towards our country, so we should really work towards it and do the best, because we are as best as anywhere else in the world. Technology is constantly evolving. We are at the forefront, so we are not on the tail end of things. We can be the front
Yeah.
leaders, and that was one of the specific reason I decided not to have an office in Bangalore, but in the middle of near a village in Punjab.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's the story, because I believe if we are even if we fail, that's okay. We will have fun, but if we succeed, I think it might inspire somebody. In the middle of nowhere, you can create a world-class technology company that's best in the world, and it's used by not only India but one of the pioneers. So something that came out of India, not in Koramangala or not in HSR layout, but in Sector 108, Mohali of all places. So yeah, that's the vision.
You will, Manish. Knowing you,
Hopefully,
I think you will. And good luck for all of that,
thank you.
Manish. If I were to start on edge computing, where
Mhm.
should I start? How can I start?
Sure. Uh, that's really a good question. And again, with your permission, I'll just take one step back, and so that I can set the context. Edge computing is for everybody, irrespective of which industry you're working on. And it's not only for you if you are a software programmer or developer, or you're working in the telecommunications industry. Think of it, how would you work? Again, going back to the electricity example or running water. Think of it, how does electricity or access to internet impacts your industry or your domain? You could be working in finance, or you could be working in healthcare. Internet is a necessity for you. Think about it. In addition to access to internet, I'm able to give you access to computing power. You can do all the
Hmm.
processing right next where you are without having to wait. For example, we all have those annoying moments where the network is down or the video call is not good enough, and it creates a lot of problems. I think it is imperative for us to have the prepare our minds for this new paradigm. If you are an architect, can you think of solutions? I mean, it's about the idea first. Execution happens eventually. As an architect, how can you utilize computing power while you are designing a building? That's a
Hmm.
paradigm change. You need to be aware of it. Or if you are a fashion designer, how can you design fabrics, wall curtains that detect dust, for example,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
or self-healing bandages, or a smart bandage that reports the bacteria level or whatever, or a bed sheet, anything. If you're working in the finance sector, how can you benefit from real-time computing capabilities? Maybe biometric identification, fraud prevention. You can have an offline ATM. Sounds interesting idea. Sounds crazy also, but it's an interesting idea. It's for everybody. If you're a programmer, there are a lot of technologies that are there. You can start experimenting. Uh, what I compare it with is the iPhone moment. When the iPhone came out, there was no app store, there were no apps. But today, the app store itself, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but I think it generates about $50 billion of revenue every year. It's crazy. The same thing is going to happen with the edge first world. When you have so many connected devices, these devices need smart applications, smart solutions. So if you are a programmer, you need to think, what will be relevant? How can I have the expertise to build a distributed application that is going to hit us 5 years from now? So this is like the Angry Birds moment. It's a
Hmm.
cool app, but it's like we're revisiting it. So last time we didn't have the expertise or the experience, but we have the benefit of hindsight, which is like 2020, thankfully. We need to prepare ourselves for what is going to be mainstream 5 years from now, and the moment is right now, irrespective of which domain you are on. You don't have to be a programmer necessarily, but you can always think of solutions. Technology is only an enabler. There can always be somebody who can write the application for you or develop the software, but you have the industry expertise. So it's really on top of it should be on top of your mind, like just like you're working with electricity or the internet. It's a new concept, so it's difficult to grasp in the beginning, but if you really think about it, if I give you a really good computing power right next to your room or your wardrobe, what will you do with it? Even I do not know of all the
Hmm.
possible use cases, but I think even if we are aware, it really empowers us, and it will touch everything. Just like every business is an electricity dependent business, every business is an internet dependent business. So I believe every business is going to be an edge first business.
Fantastic, Manish. I think that's a right moment to finish this particular podcast. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your experiments with me, Manish.
Thank you, Joseph.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please share what you liked in our conversation on social media and tag us. Have life of wins.